On today's podcast, we're talking about our own personal work performance, but certainly this is applicable to your overall life performance as well, and the signs of when we might be experiencing burnout versus boreout, tips to investing our time back into purpose and connection. Welcome back to The Thermostat with Jason Barger. If you're currently on a commute, a walk, or just a micro break in your day, glad you're making time to step back, to think, and to reflect on the next steps on your journey. I've never been more convinced the best leaders and team cultures in the world are the ones that make time to step back, breathe in good oxygen, and calibrate their thermostat. I hope today's conversation leaves you feeling grounded and inspired. Now let's dive into today's topic to engage our minds and hearts in order to authentically lead and create compelling cultures wherever we are in the world. Hey everyone, it's Jason, and welcome back to the Thermostat Podcast. We are in Season 6, well over 100 episodes now, and wherever you are, however you're coming to the podcast today, welcome back. If you're one of the OGs, the originals from the very beginning of this podcast, then welcome back. So glad you continue to be with us along the journey. So glad this continues to contribute to you, your journey, your mindset, your focus. And if this breathes oxygen into you, then I'm so glad that you continue to come back for this. If you are new to the podcast, then welcome. So glad you are here. Reviews and feedback we continue to get continues to be fantastic. So glad this continues to spread and grow and expand. And so for everybody out there, no matter whether you're new or old, welcome. Glad you are here. If all of you will take a moment, if you'll just do me just this one quick moment right as we're beginning, hit the like button. Subscribe, of course, if you haven't subscribed already. And most importantly, if you'll rate 5 stars, of course, for this podcast and leave a nice review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to. Those are the ways in which this helps the messages get amplified and help reach further out into the world. That's just the way that it works. So thanks to everybody who takes the time to do that. I truly, truly appreciate that. My commitment to you is that I want this always to be a place for you to step back, for you to think, wherever you are on your journey, to be able to step back, to be filled with some things that engage your mind and your heart and help you on the next step along your path. So I'm excited that I'll continue to commit to making that what this is about. And thanks for your support and helping to amplify the message, sharing it with the people in your network. We've just wrapped up a 4-part series on this podcast over the last few weeks about the Great Resignation. Of course, the Great Resignation referring to the 30+ million people that all quit their jobs, resigned towards the end of throughout 2021. And we, of course, dove into that and went into all the reasons of why is this happening? What is this revealing to us? So we've just wrapped up this 4-part series. If you didn't catch it, I encourage you to go back and listen to it. Really important and relevant stuff for if you, no matter what industry you're in, for working in the world today, living, leading the culture that you're creating in the world, really worth going back and listening to. The episodes were all dedicated to different elements that are within our control at a time when so much maybe feels out of our control. So for leaders, for organizations, for teams, how can we control what we, control the controllables and think about what temperature we're trying to set. So I encourage you to go back and listen to that if you didn't already do that. With all that has been happening in the world over the last 2 years and now hopefully, navigating ourselves, I say hopefully, but navigating ourselves out of a global pandemic, we know that cultures of engagement, purpose, and connection are needed more than ever. And so leaders and organizations that are being intentional about that are helping their people thrive and also navigate their way through the challenges that we've all been experiencing. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that more today. So on today's podcast, we're talking about our own personal work performance. But certainly this is applicable to your overall life performance as well. And the signs of when we might be experiencing burnout versus boreout. Tips to investing our time back into purpose and connection. But first, let's take a quick break and we'll pause and we'll be right back. Many teams and organizations right now are realizing that they need to do both. They need to engage the minds and hearts of their people in person, where everyone in the room can experience the energy of congregating together and find clarity for the road ahead. And they also need to continue to find ways to engage the minds and hearts of their people virtually, with those who are working remotely or at a distance. So, if you are in the process of planning your next team meeting, company all-hands event, conference, or culture summit, and are looking for support with a powerful keynote speech, facilitated team conversations that are the currency for change, or deeper development on leadership mindset and an intentional strategy for the culture you're trying to create, I hope you'll contact us at jasonvbarger.com, jasonvbarger.com. It is my privilege and our honor to partner with great people to provide support in these areas. We want to breathe oxygen into your leaders and throughout your organization so you can set the temperature you want for your culture. We look forward to connecting with you soon. The happenings of the last 2 years in the world are well documented. Certainly, there's been a lot of angst. There's been a lot of anxiety. There's been division politically, economically. There have been issues of social justice. We've been, of course, in a global pandemic, which varying thoughts by so many different people and all of us, just challenges of making our way through this. There's been changes in the way that we work, remote and hybrid and virtual and in person, all those things. And certainly our recent chats, of course, about the Great Resignation, over 30 million people quitting their jobs between April and November 2021, and that trend continues, and that many leaders, companies, and of course across industries, there's been a lot of stress, there's been a lot of change, and a lot that just humans in general have been dealing with. There are a lot of positives too. I don't want this to only sound negative, but we also know there have been a lot of challenges, a lot of obstacles, and certainly I believe there's some things we're learning and some positive things that we're learning and growing, and also that will come out of some of this. But there's no doubt there have been challenges and obstacles and things that have not been good and losses that we've all experienced. So we know this. We know that this has been happening. With all of that has come mental health challenges and also feeling of isolation. We know that Bloomberg Business, a study they did that of all those people of the Great Resignation that quit their jobs, 66% of the millennials, those people that quit that were in the ages 25 to 40, now, those people that left their jobs in 2021, 66% of them said that it was for mental health reasons. And younger folks, Gen Z, that's 24 people that are 24 or younger right now, that percentage was even higher, it's 81%. So obviously the world and environment that we've been in has been stressful, it's been uncertain, it's been challenging for employees and employers alike. So both sides of it, it's certainly been challenging. There have been obstacles. And we know that this, as we've been talking about in the last few episodes, a new work-life paradigm seems to be evolving, where people that maybe traditionally kind of their work came first and they built their life around it. Now, many people are starting to rethink that, hey, no, my life comes first, and then how does my work and the job I choose, the career I choose, how does that help support the life that I want to have rather than the other way around? And so the best leaders and organizations are actively engaged right now. Again, if we know people have been hurting, if we know obstacles, we know challenges, all those things that I just named, the best leaders and organizations, the best teams are actively engaged with caring for their people. They're going directly to them to serve, to listen, and to help shape a better future together. They know that that's a part of the work that we are here to do in the world, is not just whatever it is that your company or team or organization, not just whatever it is that you produce, but how you get to producing that, how you get to the services that you provide, the people that are within your team organization, that shaping that culture and helping it be a place that cares for people and helps bring out the best in people is some of the most important, if not the most important work that we're doing right now. So we know this to be true. We know this that we've experiencing, and we also know that companies and employers are now asking good questions that probably should have been asking long ago, but here we are. But asking good questions about how do we care for people and create cultures that people want to be a part of. So we know that the best leaders and cultures are wanting to care for their people. They're wanting to go directly to them to serve, to listen, and to help shape that better future together. This is where I turn to some of the research. I have people that I look to, I listen to. I think research is helping to guide us in some ways, just so we can better understand the times in which we're living and working. And so, researcher, author, and organizational psychologist at the Wharton School of Business at the University of Penn, Adam Grant. Of course, many people know Adam Grant, but he points out the difference employees might be feeling lately, the difference between burnout and what he calls boreout. Burnout and boreout. And he says burnout is being overwhelmed by your work. Burnout is being overwhelmed by your work. So those people that claim to be that they're experiencing burnout, their work and the workload that they have has become totally overwhelming to them. So he defines burnout as being overwhelmed by work, and he defines boreout, boring, boredom. Boreout is being underwhelmed by work. And really talking about that this balance that we all are striving to hit, but also that is really important right now in the world in terms of our teams and organizations, is we certainly don't want burnout, people just feeling totally overwhelmed by their work, which again leads to some of the data related to the Great Resignation. But we also don't want boreout, which means people are totally underwhelmed by their work, because the data points to the data itself in the research points to the reality that having too much work to do is exhausting, but also having too little to do or little connection or little purpose is demoralizing. And so part of the key right now of leading and culture and teamwork in the world today is sustaining energy. Sustaining a good energy depends on our ability of balancing what's meaningful to us with what's manageable to us. And that's an important piece of the puzzle. We understand that all humans experience moments of waning motivation. All humans experience moments of waning motivation. But these are just opportunities for us to step back and to return to purpose and to mission. This is, just a part of the balancing act that many leaders and team cultures are experiencing right now. They're helping their people connect back to meaning, connect back or to each other, and make sure that we're taking care of ourselves emotionally, physically, and spiritually. There's other related research points that we ought to look to as well. Other related research, points to similar trends that my good friend and researcher Tamara Miles, who you may recognize that name, who you've heard on previous podcasts about her studies around the 10 principles of meaningful work, amazing work that in research and study that Tamara and her research partner Wesley Adams did on this 10 principles of meaningful work culture. Again, if you don't recognize that episode, I would encourage you to go back and listen to that podcast. Fascinating stuff about their research of these kind of 10 principles of meaningful work. But she shares these also recent findings in her research and study that Bluebird Incorporated, their research says that 77% of employees surveyed say they want to work for an organization where they feel connected to both purpose and people. And so 77% of people right now are saying, hey, I want to work for a place where I feel connected not only to the purpose of the organization and my purpose, but also I want to feel connected to people. And yet that very same research shows that only 31% of organizations say they are actively addressing these connection challenges. And so, if 77% of employees say they want to feel connected to purpose and to people, but yet only 31% of organizations are saying that they are actively addressing these connection challenges, connection to purpose and to people. Then, what it's revealing is that most organizations don't currently have a cultural strategy or cultural priorities around creating and helping create those connections for purpose and for meaning and connection back to the people. And again, there's been lots of challenges, of course, of isolated work, remote work, all of the things that we know have been natural challenges over the last couple of years. And yet it's time to get a strategy, time to intentionally shape the culture that we want. Some other research, Jane Dutton from the University of Michigan, who does research on the power of what she refers to as high-quality connections at work, she says that it's increasingly important for employees to experience micro moments, small little moments of positive connections that make them feel seen, make them feel energized, and make them feel engaged. And so she's saying in the world that we've been in lately, it's increasingly important. It's always been important, but it's increasingly important for employees to experience those kind of micro moments, those small moments where they're creating positive connections that make them feel seen. Which, what does that mean? I think that means they're recognized for the role they play. They're heard. They feel valued. They want to also feel energized, which means they're connected to what the mission is. What are we trying to accomplish? They're energized by the direction that the team or the organization, the company's going. And they also want to feel engaged, which means their mind and their heart are engaged in being a contributor and a part of that culture. So she also points out that these, the reality of this, that people want this, that these kind of micro moments or small moments are happening not only very strategically, intentionally in person, but they're still able to happen virtually. And so we're in this world where we're going to need to be able to continue to leverage technology and to make sure that we are engaging with people and helping them feel seen and energized and engaged virtually, but also increasingly, we're coming to a place where we've got to flex those hybrid muscles, but we've got to be really intentional about kind of bringing people back in person and creating those in-person experiences as well, which I know and I'm already seeing is happening more and more lately. So Dutton's research identifies 4 pathways that she identifies to building these, what she calls high-quality connections. And I want to run through them just real quickly for a takeaway for today. So she says the 4 pathways to building these high-quality connections. 1, we need to engage respectfully. We need to engage respectfully. And what she means by this is she says we've got to show people they are important. And we need to show people that you care, that you as a leader, that show people that they are important and show people that you care about them as a human being. I was just in a recent dialogue with many team leaders in a particular organization, and I was using the language that we've got to show people, not just tell people. We got to show, don't just tell. Show people and help them feel that they are valued and they are respected. And the way we do that is we've got to engage with them in respectful dialogue and really reach out to them, go to them, build that kind of a rapport with them. The second pathway to building what she calls these high-quality connections is that we've got to build trust. And of course, again, these things aren't going to seem revolutionary to anybody, but sometimes we got to get back to these kind of building blocks. So building trust, she says we've got to convey to our people that you believe they will meet your expectations, and that you are dependable, but so are they. And that we together, we all trust each other to meet expectations and that we are dependable. If you love this topic of trust, again, I'd encourage you to go back and listen to a previous podcast episode I did called Trust the Process, where I talk about, we talk about this word trust, we talk about this phrase, trust the process, and yet why is it so hard for people to actually trust the process? And I talk about the elements of that and the elements of trust, the fact that trust is something that we barter back and forth each day. Trust is earned. It's not just blindly given. So we earn the trust of the people around us based on our behavior and how we follow through on the things we say we're going to do, and vice versa. So it's a two-way street. The people, we have to give trust, but we've also got to be willing to receive trust, and we've got to earn trust over time that is bartered back and forth. So she says, two of those four pathways to building these high-quality connections. The first one is engage respectfully. The second is build trust. The third she identifies is she just says be helpful. That right now in the world, we need to just be helpful, right? There's too many other obstacles or things in our way that are making it harder for people. So we need to help facilitate someone's successful performance. So as leaders and as teams, and again, across entire organizations right now, we need to seek out ways to help someone else succeed. Seek out ways to help someone else succeed. So more than ever, we've got to have our eyes open, our ears open, and to find ways that we can jump in to support a colleague, who is working on a goal, a team member, somebody where we can say, hey, how can I help you achieve what you're trying to help, and to help support you along the way. And then lastly, the fourth pathway that she identifies is just have fun. That and what resonates with me about this is I've noticed this in many teams and organizations is the last 2 years have been pretty, there's been a lot of drudgery. There's been a lot of doom and gloom. There's, people have been kind of beaten down in a lot of ways and are tired and all that. So having fun and finding ways to do that. She says make time to play through games or other ways to engage in creative exploration as teams. For me, I would say that people are in need of, are thirsty for, and are needing to seek joy. And so how can we help breathe oxygen into ourselves, but also into the people around us, and to laugh, to seek joy, to have fun with one another, so that it's not just always these very serious topics, but we're making sure that we're we're having fun, we're engaging, we're seeking joy, we're laughing together. And then this idea of kind of breathing oxygen, I'll just give you a hint that we're going to be talking more about that topic in the year ahead, and I'll tell you why in some future podcast episodes. Hint. Okay, so like always on this podcast, I want to give you a few questions to ponder for this week or whenever you're thinking about these particular topics. So some questions to ponder along your way. If you've been feeling a lack of energy or focus lately, step back and consider, is it burnout, which is just, related to overwork, or boreout, underwork, or maybe you're just missing purpose and need to kind of refocus and reconnect back to the connection with your purpose or other people. So is it burnout or is it boreout? And then in what ways could you invest time into building high quality connections with those on your team? In what ways could you invest time into building high quality connections with those on your team? How could you engage respectfully? How could you build trust? How could you intentionally help someone reach their goals? And how could you help facilitate on your team or throughout your organization to how to have fun and seek joy? I hope you'll ponder those questions this week. I invite you to breathe in appreciation and gratitude for all that is within your control. Again, I know there's so much that's been out of our control lately, but take a second and step back and breathe in appreciation and gratitude for all that is within your control. Now is a chance for all of us to positively impact those with us, those on our teams, those on the journey with us, and that gives energy to everyone. Calibrating our own personal thermostat requires awareness. It requires then us to be aware of how we're feeling and thinking and how others might be thinking and feeling. And then what is our response? Calibrating our response based on how we want to behave in the moment, what's the action that's needed on our team, and helping to shape the culture that's around us. We are the thermostats. Our internal temperature helps sets a temperature externally for those around us based on our own response and our own behaviors. So I hope you'll continue to keep tuning in. We've got a great season ahead of us. More topics that are going to help support your vision, your mindset of being that authentic leader in the world, and help creating that compelling culture wherever you are, whatever you're thinking about. There are more great episodes to come, so I hope you will, again, stay tuned in, stay engaged, and continue to take time to think about these kind of things and share it with the people around you. Remember, the best leaders, teams, and cultures on the planet stimulate progress by recalibrating their thermostat together. Thank you for listening to today's podcast, and I hope the messages and questions stimulate positive change along your path. As always, if these messages resonate with you and add value to your life, I hope you'll help amplify them throughout the world. Please rate, comment, and share on whatever podcast or social media platform you're using, and share this podcast with the people in your life or work who should be part of these conversations. That way, this spirit does, in fact, spread. If these messages or developing leaders and culture would be helpful to you and your organization, please contact us at jasonvbarger.com, jasonvbarger.com. And remember, we are all ambassadors for the culture we want to create in our life and work. We have to own the vision we want to be a part of. The future of leadership is you, is me, is us. Be a thermostat.